The anatomy of bones and joints. This is Kinsley. She will be teaching you about the bones first.
So let's get started. There are 5 types of bones. So here is how it works. The first type of bone is the long bone. Long bones are found in the arms and legs. The best example for this type of bone are the humerus and femur. The next type of bone is the short bone. Short bones are most common in the wrists and ankles, such as carpals and tarsals. The third type of bone is the flat bone. Flat bone, as the name implies, are flat and thin. They often protect vital organs of the body from injury, such as the skull. The fourth type of bone is the irregular bones. Irregular bones are odd-looking bones, such as the sphenoid bone or the vertebrae. The last type of bone is the sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bones are unusual bones. They are small, flat bones wrapped with tendons that move over bony surfaces. The best example for this is the patella. There's more! "20% of the total mass of the human body is the skeletal system." First, we'll start with the appendicular skeleton. This skeleton has 126 bones. It includes the bones of the shoulder girdle, the upper limbs, the pelvic girdle, and the lower limbs. Next is the axial skeleton. This skeleton has 80 bones. This consists of the head and the trunk of the vertebrae. The appendicular and axial skeleton together make up 206 bones in the human body. Now we will be moving on to the anatomy of the long bone. It may look confusing at first, but hang in there, I'll be explaining it to you. The epiphysis is the top and the bottom of the long bone. The diaphysis is the majority of the middle in the long bone. All of these are made up of articulating cartilage, medullary cavity, and periosteum. Cartilage is located on both ends of the long bone. It allows smooth movement within joints while protecting the ends of the bone. They do not have blood supply or nerve endings. It can also be referred to as articular cartilage. The periosteum is the outer connective tissue that covers the entire length of the bone. Periosteum fibers and those ligaments and tendons unite to connect the bone to bone or bone to muscle. The medullary cavity is found inside the shaft of the bone and filled with red and yellow marrow. Red marrow is where blood cell formation happens. Yellow marrow is mostly made up of fat cells and connective tissue. This diagram above gives you a visual on the osteon compact bone. The compact bone is a dense part of the bone and is responsible for the structural integrity. The spongy bone is located on the epiphysis of the long bone. The cancellous bone can also be known as the spongy bone. It is filled with marrow in its small light cavity spaces. It can also be strengthened with the exercise. The more the loads increase, the more the bone is accustomed. Epiphyseal plates can also be called growth plates. This occurs at various locations at the epiphyseal of the long bone. Tuberculi are bony-like fibers arranged in a strut-like system running throughout the cancellous tissue. The density varies with the type of bone and the amount of stress it bears. This diagram is showing the location of the trabecula. Throughout these next slides, we will be playing back the bone landmarks. Now on to joints. Meet Sophia. Sophia will be teaching you about the joints.
There are 3 types of joints in the human body: fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial, which can also be known as synarthrosis, amphiarthrosis, diarthroses. Next are the 6 types of synovial joints. And here's how it works. The first type is ball and socket. It is the most maneuverable joint out of the 6. It can move forwards, backwards, and circular. An example of this joint is a hip joint. The second type is gliding. It can also be known as a plane joint. This joint allows the bones to glide past one another, either up or down, left or right, or diagonally. An example of this is a hand or foot joint. The third type is a hinge joint. They have a convex portion of one bone fitting into a concave portion of another. They allow movement in one plane. An example of this joint is an ankle joint. The fourth type is a pivot joint. It allows rotation in one plane. A rounded point of one bone fits into a groove of another. An example of this is an elbow joint. The fifth type is a saddle joint. It allows movement in 2 planes, flexion-extension and abduction and adduction. An example of this joint is your thumb. The sixth type is an ellipsoid joint. This joint is like the saddle joint. It allows for 2 plane movements such as abduction and adduction, and flexion and extension. An example of this joint is your wrist. It won't be long, we're almost done. Next, we will be going over the characteristics of the synovial joints. Articular cartilage is located on both ends of the bone that come in contact with one another. It protects the ends by reducing friction. It allows for a smooth contact surface for the bones to move around. Joint capsule is a fibrous structure that consists of the synovial membrane and the fibrous capsule. The synovial membrane allows certain nutrients to pass through, while the fibrous capsule keeps synovial fluid from leaking. Joint cavity is located between the 2 bony articulating surfaces. It is filled with synovial fluid, which acts as a lubricant for the joint. This lubricant reduces friction and provides nutrients for the articulating cartilage. Bursa. They are the small, flattened fluid sacs found at the friction points between tendons, ligaments, and bones. Extrinsic ligaments. The knee joint is held together medially by the medial collateral ligament and laterally by the lateral collateral ligament. These ligaments provide medial and lateral stability of the knee. Intrinsic ligaments. The knee joint has several ligaments which help attach the femur and tibia together. They are also thick bands of fibrous connective tissue that help thicken and reinforce the joint capsule.
You made it!
Now you are experts of
Bones and joints.